So hello, welcome to this webinar today. We're going to do a deep dive into version 34 of Mercury. Many of you probably know me by now. You're probably seeing my face in different places, but I'm Jackie Sherlock and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Mercury. As I said, I'm joined today by the lovely Emily German, who will be managing our questions and answers and basically making sure that we stick to time and that everything goes smoothly. So thank you to you, Emily, for that. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Mercury development process because I think it helps to give that kind of context as to how we develop, and it will also help to clarify some of the terms that I speak about as we go through. Then we're going to take our time to look at version 34 of Mercury and really go into some of those details a little bit more. And then last but not least, I'm going to go over some of the things that we've released recently in our release train. If you don't know what the release train is, don't worry, by the end of this session, you absolutely will do. So we'll go over that before a little sneak peek at some things that are coming a little bit further down the track. So I wanted to talk to you about how our development sprints work because I think it's really important to understand how we do our development here. We have 4 main releases a year, which are our version releases. That's what we're talking about today, version 34. The next one will predictably be version 35 and that will be coming out in October. So we have a period of time that we're developing the core product of Mercury. That's your CRM that you're using day in, day out. And it's really about building stability and improving performance, but also making sure you get the features, the functions that you need in order to get what you need done. And then at the end of that, we have a little pink line that I've put there, which is our release cycle. And I'll talk about the release cycle in a second. Alongside that, we also have our release train. And that is every 2 weeks, we can release things that are non-core Mercury. So that's things like our portals, the search, new Mercury search, API integrations, analytics, and our automations, and that allows us to iterate our innovation on those things. It means you don't have to wait 3 months to get a new integration out. You don't need to wait 3 months for a new analytics report, for example. We have the ability to release them every 2 weeks should we need to. Now, that's not to say that we do release every 2 weeks, it's just that we have that option. For example, analytics tends to be on a monthly release cycle, so every month you'll have some new functionality in there. Others, you may not have any development for a little while, but things like search, you'll see there are developments all the time happening there. So we're now at that pink line stage for V34, which is our release schedule, and we've actually done the first 2 releases, which are, first of all, we release V34 to the sandbox environments to customers who have got that sandbox for things like customizations that they've developed themselves to make sure that it all still works with the new version of Mercury. Then we've moved on to release the version to all of our customers who don't have sandboxes. It goes onto your live environment, and that happened on the 26th of July. And then this weekend, those sandbox customers who've already been testing it will get V34 deployed onto their live environment, which means now is the perfect time to talk about what's in that release. Some of you may have joined me a couple of weeks ago for our roadmap session where I talked about some of these highlights. I'm going to go into them in a little bit more depth for you now and then go through some of the other things that I didn't talk about then. So firstly is our new shortlist board view, and I'm sure you've all heard about this in one way or another. It's our brand new way of progressing candidates, which works like a Kanban board. You can simply drag and drop candidates from one section to another, all the way from selected to accepted or rejected, and all the parts in between. You can set a sub-status, which is the only place that you can do that, and then easily see that through the rest of the process. And it gives you a really, really easy view of where your candidates are at any given point in the cycle. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Another key thing to note is this has been developed alongside customer feedback. So what we've done is we created a version of this, then we got customers to use it, a limited number of customers to use it, feedback, how they were using it, what they expected it to do, and we've developed with that in mind. So you can see that here I'm in my vacancy and I'm in the Mercury vacancy view. Then if I click on my candidates, it will take me to the list view, which is lovely. It looks great. You've got those colours to show you where they are in all those stages, but you can see that that's actually quite a long list of candidates for this shortlisted role. So I'm going to click on board view and then it will take me to our brand new Kanban style board view. So straight away you can see that it's really, really easy to see where candidates are at any given point and some additional information. Across the top, we've got the different stages and those colours align with the status reason, which is a really nice touch. And it makes it really easy when you've got a lot of candidates in particular. If I then have a look at this column here, I'm going to focus in on one of our candidates. So Hans here, you can see we've got a load of information. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background, by the way. She's just decided that she wants to join the webinar, I think. So you can click on the link there and it takes you straight to the candidate cards, and that candidate card is the same one that you're seeing in search, which you should be familiar with by now, and it's got so much information on there about that candidate, and you can edit content from there. You can see their LinkedIn profile, their CV, all that sort of good stuff directly from that candidate click there. Then if we look, there's an options section which enables you to add the substatus, or later on in the process you can add or edit an interview as well, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see that you can select from a number of substatuses to associate with that particular candidate, and you can add a new interview if you're in the interview stage of that. Then you can see how that looks on that screen there. I've actually moved Hans now into the interview section, and he's down as an interview first, and we can see that with the substatus that's a tech interview. Next, we've got the financial information for this candidate, the vacancy information, and the interview details. So altogether, it's just a really nice way of viewing all the information associated with that candidate. And this is the shortlist board in action. You can see that as you move a candidate along, you get prompted for more information. All that information is automatically then saved back to the Mercury record. At the moment, this is just a single candidate that you can drag and drop across, but the good news is that this is part of that release train that I was talking about. So we've got devs working on this, and they can put out new features and functionality and improvements every 2 weeks. Now, we have got a brilliant knowledge base article about this. So if you go to the knowledge base, and you can either search shortlist board or look for article number 01769, it will take you through everything to do with the shortlist board. It's brilliant. Have a look at it and have a play. Let us know what you think. It's available for you now in V34. Okay, the next thing to talk about is new as well, which is worker type. So we know that compliance and agreements don't always go hand in hand. So as of V34, we've decoupled compliance and agreements to have a new table called worker type. So compliance criteria can be added to placements, not only from the linked agreement, but also from selecting a worker type. And that might be, for example, freelancer, temp W3, whatever it might be that you're using, and that's from a new field on the placement. This is going to help to streamline your compliance processes and reduce the number and the duplication of agreements. It's going to make it much more user intuitive to use this, and you can use it as part of validation as well. Now, I am by no means an expert when it comes to compliance, and we know how complicated it can be. I do have somebody hopefully joining us today if we have any questions about this, because it is involved and it is deep. But we're going to look to do a specific compliance webinar to go through all of the ins and outs of this. But for now, I just want to give you a little bit of heads up of how it's all working. So if we think about agreements in terms of business, so this is client specific information such as purchase orders, references, security clearance, on and offboarding, for example. Then you would have your worker type, and we've got a primary worker type here. And if we think of that as a candidate specific compliance, so that could be related specifically to their worker type. So if they are a freelancer, what do they have to provide for that? So it could be their right to work, it could be their national insurance number, that sort of thing. Then we have additional worker types that you can add. So these will be role specific. So for example, if you've got a healthcare role, the candidate will need to provide the agency with their fitness to practice documentation as well. And you can bundle these up into worker types. So if I quickly show you a couple of examples of how it would have worked previously and how it works now. So you can see the agreements and the worker types are separated out here. And then in a different example, again, the agreement and the worker type is separated out. This one's for a UK umbrella contractor role. So as I said before, these are complex, compliance is complex. And so I really recommend that you talk to your CSM about your particular business needs around this. Again, we have got a fantastic knowledge base article number 01780, which goes through all sorts of stuff around the worker type and the compliance associated with it. It's also got some frequently asked questions at the bottom, which are brilliant to really get to grips with this. And as I say, I'll be in touch soon with an additional webinar all about compliance. Other highlights. So Mercury forms, a few releases ago, we released Mercury forms, and we had some brilliant feedback from you guys about what you needed for them to do for us. We've implemented those changes, and as a result, now when you log into Mercury, those forms will be the default rather than the UCI forms. They are still available for you. You can still get them from the drop downs, but all the functionality that was in the existing UCI forms is now in Mercury forms, so you will be defaulted to those when you go in. This one, if you joined my webinar a couple of weeks ago, you'll know how much I love this, because I'm a little bit of a math phobic. I don't even know if that's a word. There's probably a special word for it. But now when you change the rate on a placement, it will be automatically calculated. The change will automatically be calculated. So that one is my game changer of the releases. We've also got the ability to upload multiple documents to SharePoint, which is brilliant, because it means that you can just click the new ribbon button, which is called Open SharePoint. It looks suspiciously like that one on the screen there, anywhere that you've got documents, and you can upload a range of documents in one go. So that's going to save you a load of time and hassle. We've made some UI and UX changes as well to make things easier for you to work with. In the vacancy tab, there was a lot of information in there, and so we've moved advert details into job details to make it makes more sense. It's a logical place for it to be, so that's been moved there to make it easier to work with. And the advert text 1 and 2 fields are now rich text, so you can format them and make those look beautiful. And as we go in towards V35 will have more fields which are rich text as well. So we're going to enhance that capability across that particular function. And then in the basic info tab, we have got the candidate pay information is now viewable for temporary terms, which means you can see the actual amount the candidate will receive. The email templates are now sorted alphabetically, so it's going to make it much easier to find what you're looking for in those templates. The specific sort order is by special characters, then numeric, then alphanumeric, so that you know exactly where to look for what you're looking for. And then I really like this one as well. When you create a candidate company now, it will automatically create a SharePoint location for you, which means you don't have to do it manually. The other thing I like about this is that it's something that we did in vacancy in the last release, and so we're building that consistency for you in this release with candidate company. And talking about consistency, I talk about consistency quite a lot. I think it's really important that when you use a system, things are consistent. You know how a button is going to operate. You know what it's going to be called. You don't have to go looking for it. And so we've got some things here that really help to solidify that. First, we've changed the accounts contact to invoice contacts. So if it's populated on the client, it will automatically populate an invoice contact and any placement created for that client. That brings it in line with other fields around Mercury. Timesheets and expenses, create timesheets and create expenses are now toggles to make them more consistent with other areas as well. And we've standardized the fields between contract and temp in calculated values to make sure that they're in the same order and they're called the same things. We've also applied the hierarchy filter on hiring manager and end client end contact so that it only shows the records related to that particular client. That brings it with parity with the UCI form, as I was saying earlier, so you've got that consistency of experience when you're using it. We have a whole heap of integrations, as I'm sure you're all aware of, and we work very closely with our partners to continually enhance those provisions. One thing to tell you about is that we are currently rolling out our LinkedIn version 2 integration. Now that is strictly back end. There's no front end changes to you guys at all. There shouldn't be any difference for you, but it is going on in the background, so just to make you aware. But if you're using Broadbean or Logic Melon, we found that we heard from you guys that there was a difficulty in reporting on which jobs were actually being posted, and advert slots can be quite expensive. So if you're not using them, that's money that you're basically throwing down the drain. So we wanted to be able to enable you to report better on that and see which jobs are actually being posted. In order to do that, when you create an advert now, it creates a Mercury advert, a record within Mercury, so we can improve the reporting on that information. And then with Daxtra On Demand, you can now update latest source field when you're uploading so that that's correct when you upload manually. For you admins that are out there, we've got a couple of new security roles. So we've got one that lets you edit and update who can edit user or team records. You'll need to assign this role to users who need the permission. Another new role is if you've had a placement that's been created but it's for the wrong client, you can now change that client on the placement. It will say, for example, if it's a different division or it's a child client, something like that. So you can change it. There'll be a new button called Novate, which is my favorite word at the moment, and a new placement will be created with the new client and client contact selected. Please note though, some of the fields are cleared out when you're running this process. For anything to do with security roles, please go to the service desk in the first instance, who will be happy to deal with any questions or requests that you have. Similarly with config, we've got a couple of new config options. One is that you can decide who the owner of an extended placement should be. That makes it simpler to ensure your business processes and ownership rules are applied. And then we've got another one where an admin can create a config record for an entity and any field can be hidden or mandatory. So that gives you greater control over what you are and what you aren't showing or making mandatory within Mercury. Again, the service desk is a great place to go to get more information about how to use those things. So there's quite a bit there, but there's also things like software fixes, or we've got in-depth information about each of those. We've got a knowledge base article 01786, which has all of the release notes information that you may need. Summary release notes are available on there, as are itemized release notes and some particular information for admins. The itemised release notes goes line by line by line of every item that we've done for this release. I'm currently working on the video that accompanies this, and it will be out with you in the next week. So while we're here and while we've got a bit of time, I wanted to highlight some of the things that have gone out on the release train over the last few months. Firstly, analytics, we've got a new report called the Pipeline Velocity Report, which is brilliant. It shows you the average days from vacancy to placement for perm and temp contracts and the different times for the stages within that. This is part of Mercury Analytics Essentials. So if you've got analytics, you've got this, and it really helps you to see where the bottlenecks are either in your processes or at consultant or team level. You can see where things are working better than expected, or where candidates are taking longer than you would expect to progress through. So it's a great report for finding out where things are taking too long and where you might be having your bottom line affected by commissions not being realised or fees not coming in on time. Across a number of reports, we've added associated GP or WGP within the data, so you can see the actual impact of the data on the screen. So this means you are potentially losing out on this much WGP. It's fantastic to see it on a number of different screens throughout analytics. And we've made a load of UI and UX improvements so that the data that you see is easier to understand, but you can still drill through to that line level data of exactly what's happening in your business. It gives you unprecedented insight as to what's happening with your business. Any questions about analytics at all, please do get in touch. We've also got a brand new item in our Automate that you might have seen us talk about online, where you can send automated surveys once a placement's been approved or X number of days after it started, or the creation of an interview. You can ask the questions that you want to help you understand how your clients and candidates are viewing your business. It gives you the information you need to find areas of best practice or where there could be some improvements, and basically it leads to an improved experience for everyone involved because you're getting real data at the point that you need it. So that's our NPS survey. And then we also have a new automation that provides the client or owner an in-platform and Teams notification when a new info record is created. Over on the candidate portal, there's been a lot of work to improve the platform experience on mobiles, especially around timesheets and expenses, because they're the ones that people are most likely to use from their phone or their tablet. Candidates can now upload their own CV, and we've added in offboarding and onboarding compliance information so that you can differentiate them from other types of compliance. It's giving more control to candidates, giving them a better experience, especially around those key times of starting and ending a placement. Search, Mercury Search runs on the release train, so that means there's always new things coming out there. We recently launched Save Client Contact Queries, which I know people have been asking for a while, so it gives me great pleasure to be able to tell you that that's there now. Coming soon, you'll also be able to edit and delete those as well as share them with colleagues. That's coming up in the next few sprints. We've also got a unified timeline in Search, which brings together archived and live activities into a single timeline. The newest items are at the top, but you get a holistic view of every interaction that's happened with that particular person. It's just in Search at the moment, but we are looking at how we can expand that out into Core, which I'll talk about in a sec. We've also changed the way that if you've been using Search, you'll see that there was the search and the the candidate and the client contact tabs at the top. Those are now a really nice drop down that lets you select which view of Search you'd like to look at. It just tidies that up a little bit and gives you a better experience of using it. Across our AI suite, we've improved the prompts so you get better responses and better generated content. We've also improved the formatting to make them look better, and we've given you the ability to edit them in rich text fields. We've also added a help and information screen so that you can make sure you're getting the most out of the suite of AI. So, as I kind of hinted at, the release train has things going out all the time, and we've got our own page in the knowledge base, where you can keep up to date with all of the release notes for the release train. I also send out regular emails about updates that have gone out to the product. If you would like to be involved on those, just reach out to me and I'll add you to my email list. While we've got a couple of minutes left, I want to tell you about a few things that you're going to be seeing really, really soon. So first off is Activity AI being enhanced with transcripts. So if you have a meeting, an appointment in Outlook, you can generate the transcript from that meeting. Then we can run Activity AI across that to generate a summary, and then generate tasks, etc. in Activity AI off the back of the transcript. So it's all the good stuff that Activity AI is currently doing, but it's generated from the transcript rather than you having to put a description in. So that's coming really soon. We're already working with some of our customers to develop it. We think it's going to be great. We think it's going to save you a load of time, and I look forward to sharing more with you about that as it develops. We also have vacancy search coming, which will load search from a specific vacancy with pre-populated criteria. Again, this is in testing with customers at the moment, and we're getting great feedback from them, but it's something that's coming down the line not too far in the future. Version 35, as I said at the beginning, is coming in October 2025. It's a wave release, and what I mean by that is Microsoft have 2 releases a year where they roll out new features and functionality. We then have to make sure that everything's still working beautifully in Mercury. So we'll be doing a lot of testing and a lot of research about not just what we've got in Mercury that we need to check is still working, but where we can make enhancements in the future. We're also going to be looking at improving international timesheets. We know that these can be very complex. Things like tax in different states in the US can be really, really complicated. So we're looking at building a flexible but easy to manage solution for that for you. And that unified timeline that I spoke about that's just within search at the moment, that's also going to be brought out into the contact record.